These are my Pokemon Fire Red and Pokemon Emerald game cartridges. Yeah, they're very special to me, and they have a lot of stories behind the stories that they make in their games. This was my very first Pokemon game, and one of the very first video games I ever had. The very first video game I had is over there, another Game Boy game, A Battle for Bikini Bottom for Game Boy Advance, and Freeze Frame Frenzy, 1 and 2. And I remember I got Emerald at my local Iceman store. My dad and I were in the pouring rain, and we ran through puddles in order to get there. Yeah, I don't have many video games. I'm not that much of a gamer anymore. Ever since I became a filmaholic and a bookaholic, I've put video games to the side. I mean, a few years back, I'd look at this video and say, who is this guy? And sometimes I can't believe it myself. I mean, it's not like I don't play video games anymore, period. I'm more into free games, ones that are less unpopular, like Nickelodeon games, Neopets games that I used to play as a kid and still do. I think that video games are something that's very hard to grow out of, period. And today I thought, what are my 10 favorites? Or what games have really stuck with me? What are games that I still play today? And I found out that I could do a top 10 video on this, so here you go. Let's start from the top. So, starting off at number 10 is the new Super Mario Bros. Game for Wii. I mean, it's probably not new anymore, but at the time it was new, and it's a new version of the classic from the NES. So what can you do? That's how the name was imprinted. But anyway, my family and I love this game. We still do. It took so long to install it, but there was some sort of glitch or something. But once we got into it, we couldn't stop playing. We played 2-player and we kept dying and had to resurface for bubbles. It was some of the most intense time we've ever had, some of the most memorable. I remember the Bowser's Castle. I'd still go and play it. It's one of those games where you're so obsessed with it and you just never want it to end, but when it does come to an end, you can't wait to complete it, but it's so hard, yet it's so fun at the same time, that once you free Princess Peach, you really feel like you've played one of the best games of all time. I haven't played it recently, but I still remember the power-ups. I remember the mini-games to get the power-ups and how infuriating the Bowser cards were. It was a very colorful, fun, and imaginative time. Now coming in at number 9 is a similar game, Donkey Kong Country Returns. Don't worry, this isn't gonna be all Mario, Nintendo sort of a list, but I had to put these here, and Donkey Kong Country Returns is number 9. Sort of like Super Mario Bros. It's actually pretty much the exact same, except very nice hypnotic of a soundtrack. When those tikis try to hypnotize you, I don't know how to put it plainly. When you're climbing up the vines and it turns out they're a tongue from those snapping plants. When you go through that cave of eggs and then turns to spiders. When you go through that cave with that huge bat, and all through just to get your bananas. I might be sort of speechless, and that might sound like I don't know much good to say about it, but it's the exact opposite. I'm at a loss for words for this game. Or maybe I just mentioned enough from New Super Mario Bros. Much of that awesomeness is transcribed over to Donkey Kong Country Returns. Wait, what does transcribed mean? I think it means what it means, but just Donkey Kong Country Returns is mysterious like that, and so many challenges, so many places to explore, so many temples to discover. Yeah. So coming in at number 8 is not technically a professional game. Well, I think that some people have paid for this, but it's an online ROM hack of sorts. I love Pokemon ROM hacks. I love them so much. They're amazing. But if I had to choose one ROM hack that really stands out, it's Pokemon Insurgents. This game crams in pretty much every revolutionary part that every generation has put in. From Mega Evolution, to changing your clothes, to interesting rivals, to rivals between criminal gangs, to worshipping Pokemon, to character tragedy, and relationships with the gym leaders, and just spin it all to make one perfect batter, and they bake it to perfection. Pokemon Insurgence may be the best ROM hack ever, and that's a very heavyweight award. It's also immensely hard, but it's also immensely beautiful that by the end you don't really care. You love how the game is engineered, how it's coded. You think, there's one, how did they do that after another? It's proof that if you can do a project, you can do it even better than the company that started it sometimes. Now coming in at number 7 is Watch Dogs. Just ever since I saw the demo for Watch Dogs and the trailers, I wanted this game so bad, and I think I got it like 3 days after its release. It's so fun being able to get away from the police so realistically. It's so fun to hide, and sometimes it can be quite challenging, almost to the point where you're like, I don't think any other game makes escapes so realistically and so freely. You can do whatever you want. There's a very charming and, well, maybe not charming, more like ballistic, but fairly sweet story about the loss of a child, love over greed or greed over love, and the big underworld around Chicago, and I can really see something like this happening. I mean, there are lots of hackers out there today. I'm sure that one day a big hacker like Aiden Pierce is going to go rogue. I mean, would you do this for revenge if your daughter was murdered in cold blood because of a transaction that went wrong? A little bailout? I don't know, but the story is shivering. The graphics are terrific. The escapes and chases and gunfights are so much fun, and, well, I don't think I'm ever gonna forget Watch Dogs, even though I can't play it anymore. For what I got, I had a lot of fun. Now coming in at number 6 is Sly 2, Band of Thieves from the Sly Cooper collection. I actually play it for the PS Vita. I never got a PS2 or a PS3, but PS Vita, thankfully. Thanks, Dad. Thanks for getting it for me. I have the whole Sly collection, and I love Sly Cooper and the Thievius Raccoonus, Sly 3 Honor Among Thieves, and Sly Cooper Thieves in Time. Sly Cooper Thieves in Time is probably the second best. Now I'm pretty obsessed with all of the Sly Cooper games, and Sly 2 Band of Thieves I think is the best one. And the fact that you don't always take them down at the end of an episode, you may have to go in deeper to beat them. I think that's something that not a lot of games do. It has a very interesting story around the theft of the clockwork parts and the villains themselves. The clue bottles are a lot of fun, if sometimes annoying, but it feels like a very big accomplishment when you find them all. The worlds are a lot of fun to travel, and it's a big improvement from the first Sly Cooper and the Thievius Raccoonus. And I especially like Carmelita's, voiced by Alazia Glidewell, who also voiced Neela. Her performance is very inspirational. I know this doesn't have much to do with the game, but the fact that it was, I think, her first video game role, and she got to voice 2 very important characters, one of which had a different accent than the first one, and how much emotion she was able to put into a British accent, that sort of thing inspires me to voice act. Not to mention the tragedy at the end, I think will have this game imprinted into everyone who knows about Sly Cooper for the rest of their lives. So, number 5 is SpongeBob SquarePants Battle for Bikini Bottom for Nintendo GameCube. I went and got the Nintendo GameCube like 10 years after I first played the Battle for Bikini Bottom for Game Boy. I wanted to go up from it. And while some may think of it as embarrassing that I'm putting a SpongeBob game on this list, especially after my fiery rant of the SpongeBob movie Sponge Out of Water, I genuinely love this game. It's huge, and it feels so free, and it does feel complicated, but not too complicated. I first played this on the PS2 at this camp I was at for a week when we were on vacation, and I was so obsessed with it that I missed out on this entire party. I was so sad, but the memory of how good the game was stuck in my head, and when I got it again, I was back in that world of just being a little kid, hunting for golden spatulas, finding shiny objects and Patrick socks, sliding around Sandy Mountain. I love the puzzles, I love the slides, I love that you can choose how you want to get the amount of golden spatulas you have. If something is too hard, then you can go somewhere else that you think you understand a little bit more and go over from there. And then at the end, you need a whole lot, but the world building is so huge and you feel like you've improved by the time you get to the chum bucket that you don't mind going back. It's basically SpongeBob SquarePants Battle for Bikini Bottom portals you right into the SpongeBob world and stays there until you turn off your game, which you won't want to do. Coming in at number 4 is Wii Party. I remember that the first Wii game that my family ever got was Wii Sports, and it was fun enough, but I feel like the technology these days has improved, and improved for the better. And proof of that is Wii Party. I wish I still had this game. I once played it at my friend's house, and he let me borrow it, and he said I could keep it. I think I gave it back to him, or someone else gave it back to him, but just I desperately want to play it again. I could play that game for 20 hours straight. I think I did once, or no, that's impossible. I would have remembered something like that for sure. I guess maybe 5 hours completely. There's a game where you're able to go through Adventure Island. You could get lucky and then go all the way back to the start. There are so many fun mini games, and you don't feel the running time. You never get bored. The tour around the world is a very strategic game as well. All the guess the characters, guess where they are. They really toggle with your mind, and you never want the party to stop. Now coming in at number 3 is a game that got like 5 delays and was supposed to be released 2 years ago, but was released this May. And I've been waiting for it since 2013, 12, but I had such high expectations. It didn't disappoint at all. It's the last game in a series, and I spent $84 on it, even though I wanted to wait until it was about $60. Number 3 is Uncharted 4: A Thief's End. Now, the only thing that I would have changed was include Cutter and Chloe in the story. I sort of missed them. But everything else is amazing, and it's breathtaking, it's revolutionary, it's exemplary, it's perfect. The jailbreaks, and I said plural on that, the treasure hunts, the action scenes. But actually, now that I think about it, the other 3 Uncharted games have all of that as well. But what makes Uncharted 4 so special is this time you can use stealth to the max. Enough to make you feel like you don't have to be a murderer in this one. You could go through every level, you could give yourself a challenge and try to be the hero. Not only do you sometimes get caught up in a knot of people surrounding you when that happens, but it's hard to really care about how sometimes it's extra hard to sneak away when you're having so much fun. The story's very emotional too. It touched upon who Nathan Drake really is, finally. The third game did a little bit of that, but not as much as I wanted it to. It had emotion of what it is to be a treasure hunter, what it means to have a wife. I feel that Drake had learned not to be obsessed with treasure anymore after the third game. I'm really glad that they stuck with that. The Uncharted games have been famous for having action where things are just being destroyed everywhere, and it's not boring like, that's gone, okay, what's gonna blow up next? No, you're in the middle of that explosion, you're sliding down railways, you're falling and rolling down cliffs, you're hanging from bells 100 feet in the sky. Most of the game you really just want to go, stop, I want to look around. This is so beautiful, I want to take a look, see what those spray cans say what's in that food. I'm sure that they say the ingredients somewhere. And at the end, when you take this picture, it kept this picture when I was wearing a hat, well, when Nathan Drake was wearing a hat. I couldn't believe that they did it that way. I'm really gonna miss Nathan Drake, but it was novel the way that they said, this is the last game, we're gonna finish it, we're gonna make it perfect. Apart from that one thing, perfect. And it was. It was worth every penny. Now, coming in at number 2 is Yu-Gi-Oh! 5D's World Championship 2011 over the Nexus for the Nintendo DS. I'm still obsessed with this game so much. I love my Psychic deck. I had a Fire deck, a Life Point damaging deck. I think I had a Spellcaster deck, but that was probably from World Championship 2010. Let's just say that The challenge bar that's set up is perfect. The CPU is just as fun as the story. You want to just duel everyone over and over again. The levels of each duelist are appropriate for the occasion. And since this was the final Yu-Gi-Oh! 5Ds one, which is my favorite chapter in the series, like, Yu-Gi-Oh! 5Ds might be my favorite anime of all time, you really feel like every card in the Yu-Gi-Oh! Universe you could use. There are no limits, and there are no limits to the imagination of your deck that you can pull, nor your image. It's so much fun tagging up with everyone. The story is long enough to make you feel attached to the characters, especially Toru and Misaki. The other Yu-Gi-Oh! 5Ds games had a story in them, but I think this is the best one. The only thing I would have changed is in the 2010 one, there's an activity called Challenge, where there's a tournament with all these duelists. The duelists that you play for CPU, which are actually monster cards, I wish they kept that in, but you don't really care because you're so busy beating and losing to everyone you come across. And the one best game, I think if you've seen one of my past videos, you know this already, so sorry. But my favorite game of all time is Pokemon Mystery Dungeon Explorers of Sky. You know the funny thing? On Metacritic, the Explorers of Sky is the lowest rated by critics, but the highest rated by audience, and it deserves to have universal acclaim. Explorers of Sky sings with every pixel, every form of art, every line of dialogue, every battle, every song. Now, I know that technically this is Time and Darkness getting the Pokemon Platinum treatment, but that's a good thing. It makes it better. It adds a bigger story. It adds some more Pokemon. It stops a few things that people might have complained about. And anyway, that's why I feel Sky is better than Time. It's just, I mean, it wouldn't make sense for Explorers of Time to be better than it at this point. Now, I've heard so many people say that Pokemon Mystery Dungeon is the only game where it's made them cry, and I know exactly what you're talking about. You're not gonna be able to not cry. It's one of those games, it's the only game I can think of where I'd say, if I could erase my memory of that game and play it all over again, then I would. And I would stay like that for every... Well, actually, come to think of it, maybe not, because on Explorers of Time, I could have started a new game, but I grew so attached to my characters that I didn't want to start a new game, I didn't want to even evolve them. Pokemon Mystery Dungeon Explorers of Sky is my favorite video game of all time and probably will be forever. So, thanks a lot for watching. You probably know by now that no Call of Duty, no Grand Theft Auto games were on this, I guess because I like shoot-'em-ups, but if they're just that, it can be a bit boring and repetitive, and I like the story. As a filmaholic and a bookaholic, that's what I strive for in video games, as much as all the other stuff that they have, but the story is very important, and these games have stories that send me chills. So thanks a lot for watching this video. It was very fun to make. I hope it was as fun to watch.